Okay, so Tao Te Ching, poem number 2. Everybody has it? We're going to focus on that poem and do the whole thing. Now remember, as I told you at the beginning of the semester, we are going to do a lot of these texts together, right? This is wisdom texts, meaning that they are meant, I'll say that again as I said last time, right? These texts are meant to provoke your thinking, to get you to go deeper in your own life, in your own process, in your own psyche, right? So if I just give you the answers, this is not the goal of these texts, right? The goal of these texts is to get each one of us thinking and growing and opening up inside, right? These texts are meant to open, to unlock something inside of each one of us, right? So if I'm the only one getting unlocked, it defeats the purpose, right? So this is why I'm relying much more heavily. If you took classes from me before, right? Most classes I teach, I'm just teaching. This particular class, we are teaching it together, right? So I'm heavily relying on you for interpretation. So we're going to do this text together. I have a few ideas, but not all of it is clear to me, so I'm going to really be open to what you guys have to say. Do you have the text? No. Anybody want to share back here and give her a book? Is there? You're good? Okay. Oh, you have the, is that the text? Awesome. Is that the right poem?
It's the first half or whatever.
Yes, number 2. And who are you sharing with? You want to sit next to?
I can pull it on my phone.
Oh, you have it on your phone. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Now all of us have the text. If you don't have the text, say so I can put you next to someone who has the text. Ojima, you good? Okay, good. All right, let's begin. All right, when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Okay, what's his point? What's he trying to say here? It's all riddles, right? What is he saying? Based on the introductory lecture, any ideas on what he's... poem number 2. That is right there, the first page I gave you. Yeah.
Chapter 2.
Yes. Was it you had a hand? My God, why can't I remember your name? Azerad. Azerad, did you have your hand up? No. Where was the hand I just saw? Was I imagining it in my wildest dreams? Okay. All right, so what's he trying to say? People see things as beautiful, other things become ugly. Interesting. They become ugly. They were not necessarily ugly before you started to see things as beautiful. So what are you doing? What is this? Is there a problem here? What's the problem if there's a problem? Is he talking about a certain way to perceive the world which is problematic? What is he saying? Go ahead.
Just from my interpretation is, we're using our senses to define something, give it like a term. So we see something as ugly, then just by default, something else will become beautiful,
And is there a problem in that, seeing things as ugly and beautiful? Is there an issue that you sense might be happening here? You want to?
I think maybe that we create value for things that might seem arbitrary, but we've decided that this thing, like the diamond, is worth something.
Okay, good. So we're creating value. That's what the text is saying. And is that bad or, well, let's do what the text is doing. Is that good or bad to create value, right? What is the issue with creating value? We're doing that all the time in our civilization. We are born like this. Don't do this, do this, don't do this, do this. We're raised like this, right? So here he's saying, when you say this is good, then automatically this becomes bad. And then he just stops, right? Now we need to think, okay, what's he trying to say? Right. Azera, do you wanted to add something?
You're always striving to be number one, and the negative is that you're always striving to be number one. You can never just relax and not be compared to society.
Okay. Yes, I like that. So in other words, if something is good, we're going to strive for it, and then we're going to escape the bad. But then what do we miss out on? What do we miss when we're running after the good and trying to escape the bad? What are we missing in life? Exactly. We miss life, period, right? Life is both. So if you're running away from half of life, there's an issue, right? So that's one thing that we can get. There's more, right? But one thing we can get here is that as soon as we start to label things good, we're going to just run after them. And then anything that we have labeled bad arbitrarily, like... I don't get nobody's name here. Like Lanera said, right? Right. As soon as we label it bad, arbitrarily again, right? We're going to run away from it and we miss. So that's one very important point you can write down, that we miss in this way by creating values. We miss half of life, right? We miss what we have labeled as bad. Now continuing, what is another problem of labeling this good, labeling this bad? What is another problem of the way that we label things, apart from missing out on life? Yes.
Well, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but if you label something as bad, you're going to tend to avoid it, or so it's like the same thing as missing half of life. Like you might as well experience like a good balance of both.
Okay, very good, right? Coming back to that. But now here's another question. Is it really bad, what we label as bad? What do you think? What your parents label as bad, what your church labels as bad, what your community labels as bad? Is it bad? Let me be the serpent here on the tree. Yes, Ojuma.
I think it's just based off of perspective because the ideas of good and bad are all just human concepts that we place onto objects based off of what society projects on us. So,
Exactly.
it's not that anything is really bad, it's just that we as people view them as bad or good.
Okay, very good, right? So many things that we call bad might not be bad at all. We have determined this, right? And so in a way, we are, again, right? We are closing ourselves off and labeling certain things when in fact they might not be bad at all. Or maybe it is painful, but painful doesn't mean necessarily bad, right? So this is the idea. Many things that are painful, we label as bad, right? Or toxic. I love this. This is our big word here. Toxic environment, toxic relationship, toxic person. Why? Who? In the name of what have we labeled this as toxic? Maybe it's good. Maybe it's healthy to be around that crazy person or in that crazy circumstance or being the crazy you that you are, right? We label something painful as toxic or bad when it's simply painful, right? And painful doesn't necessarily mean bad or toxic, right? It means simply opportunity to grow, maybe opportunity to be challenged, right? Opportunity. So we do this a lot, right? Anything that is painful. And again, we are missing the wholeness of life. And we, right, by judging and separating, we are now missing all of life, right? And we'll see this idea again with Nietzsche. I mean, there's a lot of connections between Nietzsche and Tao Te Ching, and we'll see also Epictetus. Excellent, excellent. Now, gets a little deeper. Being, so now it gets very, very enigmatic, right? So I want to go over these few lines. Being and non-being create each other. What in the world is he talking about when he says being and non-being create each other? What is the point of that sentence? What is he trying to say? So first of all, what is being? What is non-being? Let's start there. What is being?
Life.
Okay, everything that we see, everything that exists, right? What is non-being?
Inanimate object.
What?
Is it referring to like inanimate object?
They still are. They still are, although they're a little slower than us. But they still exist, right? They're still part of being. Being is anything that is here, that exists, right? So what is non-being? Let's see. That's a good point because some of us are thinking that does that exist? It exists, but in a different sense, right? Because it exists in your mind or exists in your heart, so still kind of exists. It's hard to get to non-being, isn't it? So what is non-being? It's a crazy question.
Could it be like meaning or actions that like we do?
That's still being, right? We interpret. It's an interpretation. It exists, right? What is non-being? God exists still because we spoke it or we believe it or it's in our head floating. At least it exists as a concept, right? So what's non-being? Oh, I can't believe I'm asking this question. What is non-being? I should already be shot for asking that.
That's not what.
Can I ask that question? What is non-being? Is it possible to say that? Yes.
Oh no, I thought you were raising.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what not being is, but I know that this distinction about being and not being, on the contrast, we can know what is. For
Okay.
example, I know that the table ends there, and then I know that from there on there's no table. So the table exists only because you can denominate it until where it exists. And
Okay.
then now for us to say what doesn't exist is kind of hard, but like knowing that there is something, so we know that there is not something somewhere.
Okay, good, right? You're getting the sense how they create each other, right? If there was not nothingness around the table, then there would be no table, because the being implies nothingness, right? For anything to be a single object implies what it is not, correct? Right? If there is a man, or if there is a Oliveira, or it's me versus what I am not, right? So in a way, right, he's kind of, we can go deep into this idea that, non-being makes possible being, right? But he's saying something else also. So you can write this down, right? That in a way, you can't have being without non-being. In other words, you can't have something that is without what it is not, right? We emerge by defining ourselves against what we are not, right? So in a way, in that sense, being and non-being create each other. But he's saying something even broader when he says being and non-being create each other. He's putting them together in a situation of dependence. What is he trying to say? What do we usually think about non-being as human beings? How do we see the state of non-being? Are we attracted to it? Do we fear it? What's our stance to what is not? Do we want to seek out the non-being, or are we satisfied with being?
I feel like it depends on the person mostly, but whenever it's faced with an idea that we do not understand, fear is the most common emotion.
Oh, so you're talking here about the mystery that we cannot understand, grasp, know, and that's non-being, right? Okay, right, that's what you're saying? Yes, absolutely, right? So now we have finally a kind of path towards non-being. Non-being is whatever we don't understand, grasp, control, see, touch, right? Is the mystery of life, right? And being is that which we can see, control, touch, understand, right? So here he's saying, we could say, right, another way to interpret based on what Ojuma was saying, right? What we know and what we don't know belong together. What we see and what we don't see. What we possess and what we don't possess are all, we should embrace both in a way. What you know, what you don't know. What you see, what you don't see. What you possess, what you don't possess. Another way to bring the opposites together. Remember, one of the keys to happiness in Chinese philosophy is balance. Balance between what? Yes. What? Yin and yang. Balance. In other words, balance between opposites, right? When you can balance opposite forces within you, the yin, the yang, which is the ultimate two opposing forces in the universe, when you can bring those into balance, this is when you find wellness, health, and happiness, right? So here he's saying, do not embrace everything, being and non-being, right? What is and what isn't, what you understand, what you don't understand, what you love, what you hate. Well, he doesn't say that, but right. So this is kind of a global thing. Now he goes into details. Difficult and easy support each other. What is he saying here about difficult and easy? And what do we tend to look for? What do we like? How many of you gravitate towards difficult? Some of us like difficult. Okay. How many of you gravitate towards easy? Okay. See? We want easy. Easy is good. If it's difficult, it's not for me. Right? Let's take some examples of how we do this, right? You have a difficult class that you're not made for. I don't know, geometry, algebra, chemistry, right? It's difficult. You're like, no. What is Tao Te Ching telling you about that difficult class that you're trying not to take? What is it saying to you? I'm helping you create your schedule for next semester. What should you be taking according to the Tao Te Ching in terms of your schedule of classes? Hard and? Yes. Not just hard, right? You'll be out of balance. You'll go crazy, right? So he's saying a little bit of hard is good. Okay, you're in a relationship with a difficult person. What do? What's your instinct? Don't have. I'm not going to be with this person. I want easy, right? Tao Te Ching. What would the Tao Te Ching tell you?
I think to embrace the heart of the person and the good, because if you are with that person, there's some good there.
Yes.
So you should embrace both.
Okay, absolutely, right? This is great relationship advice, right? It's good, okay, you stay. It's bad, also good, right? Both are important, right? By the way, I really believe in tough relationships. I think they're so healthy, right? Any of you in a challenging relationship, there's a lot of interesting things that could happen, right? If your relationship only easy, you never really grow. It's with difficult people that you have to go deep to find the love, right? And deep to find the wisdom and deep, right? There is a lot of opportunities in difficult relationships, right? So, but we are told, it has to go smoothly, it has to be easy. And yes, part of it is that, right? It should not be only hard, but, right, there's also beauty and good in something that is hard, right? Because this is what challenges us to love more deeply in a way that we wouldn't ever love if we weren't in that situation, right? Other examples of difficult and good and how, it's, in a way, it's good to have both. Oh, tell me, explain.
Because whenever you're teaching your child something, especially when they don't want to learn that concept or the lesson, they will do everything possible in order to avoid that idea. But when they grow up, they understand and are more mature and able to understand that they needed that. But also, it's not just that. Normally, when you grow up, you remember like the nice moments, and that seems to overshadow like the bad ones. But you still have the experience.
Okay, very good. I like that, right? When you raise your kids, you don't want to be too easy. American parents are very easy on their kids, right? Oh, we want them to have their own personality, right? Also be tough, right? There is room for easy and toughness, right? By the way, another good parenting advice is when you have two kinds of children, right? Often there's the nice one who always, follows you, and then there's the rebellious one. And who do we prefer? The nice one who always obeys us, right? And the other one is wicked, right? Saying both are good in their way, right? Anytime you see a kid that's a brat, I want to invite you to see they're a strong personality instead, right? Every brat in the world hides a strong personality and could do actually great things, right? But we tend to be like, they're so spoiled and bratty, it's unbelievable, I can't stand them, right? And we miss, right, what is actually beautiful in that brattiness. So anytime you have a kid who's rebellious or ADD, right, there's another one. Oh, it's ADD. No, right? Let's look at how that can be actually energy or, initiative. Most kids, in my view, to be honest, they cure ADD, make them run around the school 3 times, no more ADD. Right? So a lot of these things that we judge in our kids because they don't fit into our concept of the good, we are missing out on the power that these kids have and the personalities and that they have, which are in the long term good, right? And we miss out on that again, right? Because we are stuck in, it has to be, you have to be obedient, not just, right? Okay, here's another fun one. And then we'll go into acting without acting. Let's do one more. Let's do, which one you want to do? There's 3 more. Pick one, somebody randomly that you want to pick from the 4, from the 3 that are left. Long and short, high and low, before and after. Any thoughts on any of these 3 that came up as you were reading? Any thoughts on long and short, high and low, before and after? Let's hear you a little bit on this. Let's try before and after. I'm curious about that one. I get the long and short, high and low, but before and after? How do we sometimes despise the before or despise the after, and how can we have both? How could we understand before and after and see how we sometimes negate one?
I can say something. On the beginning of relationships, you're very excited, and then you're like on the passion phase, and then everything's new, and then you are so excited, and then when it gets like a 1, 2, 3 years pass, and then it becomes a little bit stale, and then there's no passion anymore, and then you have to find different ways to find something attractive about the person, and then sometimes it's like, oh, it was so good before, but now kind of sucks.
Yes, I love it. We should start a relationship advice thing with the Tao Te Ching, right? Here, I'll refine what you said. Before the betrayal, after the betrayal, right? there's a betrayal, they do something unforgivable, right? Now you're thinking, oh, before was so good, if only we could go back to before. But there is actually an after, which can be just as interesting, as beautiful and profound, right? So this is another way, thank you, to look at that, right? So are you seeing how we really tend to cut out half of life out of our existence, cut out people, cut out life, cut out situations, so that we can have them fit into our little mold of what we have defined as good, and thereby missing the depth and the complexity of life, right? And we do this a lot because we want to control life. And so we define what we want to happen to us. We define the people we want to gravitate towards us and the situations. And if it doesn't fit, we reject. And when we reject, Tao Te Ching is saying, you are coming into imbalance. You are missing out on half of life, right? How can you become wise? How can you become truly happy, right? Or balanced, healthy, whole, right? If you cut out half of life out of your life, right? Very good. Now, we go into the concept of acting without doing anything, which is what I mentioned last time, right? The doing without doing. And here he's actually going to the details, and he's going to give us, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 examples. Five examples of what it means to engage with the world without really engaging with it, right? Doing things, right? Entering life, right? These are 5 ways of entering life in a way that is perfectly in line with the Tao, right? So let's see what it means. So first of all, teaches without saying anything. What does this mean to teach without saying anything? You can think also in terms of education, parenting, whatever you want to, what does it mean? And if you want to talk, just say something because I don't see you. Yes, Aziran.
Maybe without saying anything, but you can teach through actions.
Okay, right? Teach, exactly. Teaching through example, you cannot go wrong, right? There's many ways a teacher or a parent can go wrong. We saw that last time in the example, right? Your kid going through teenage crisis, you want to intervene, you barge into their room, you read them scripture, right? You do things, right, to really make them change, right? All of this is not aligned action, right? You can go very wrong anytime you take the initiative, but one of the best ways to change the situation is to model what you want to happen, right? You want peace, you want healthy child, you want intelligent children, become peaceful, healthy, intelligent, right? So one of the ways we can never go wrong when we're teaching or trying to send a message, right? Or trying to change somebody, whether it's a child or a partner or a parent. Anytime you want to make an impact, right? There are millions of ways you can go wrong. This is the one way you'll never go wrong, just become. Become what you want them to be. And it's interesting because human beings, they're very interesting in that way. I'll give you an example. I'll say it first and then I'll give you an example. Human beings mirror each other. Very often how you are impacts everyone around you. I'll give you several examples of this happened to me. This is the most classic one. I wake up in a bad mood. I will go out in the street and you do not know how many people will be rude to me, right? I mean, I'm not even talking to them. I'm just walking around with a cloud on my head, right? And people react. They are just nasty. And then I wake up super good mood, happy, not saying anything to me. People will like open the door, like give me special favors. It's unbelievable how who you are actually emanates and affects the environment, right? People reflect back to you who you are. This is so powerful because if you knew how powerful we are, right, in terms of impacting the environment, realizing that you have the power to impact your environment just by being a certain way, right? We would really be careful how we are. I'll give you another example. I used to teach before. I went to Purgatory before teaching here in Queens College. So I was teaching 8th grade. This is the ultimate purgatory. Anybody did that? 8th grade is when kids mutate, right, into adults, and they're like mutants, right? They're completely undefined. It's very hard to know what to do with them. Anyways, I was teaching them. And I remember going in the classroom when I was in a bad mood. The classroom would become a circus, right? They would be jumping around. And then I would go in a good mood. They're like horses, right? And they would really catch on. So we really do emanate an energy, right, which can have a profound impact, transformative impact on our world around us. Remember, Chinese philosophy is all about energy, right? We know that we can harness energy and emanate energy. That's what we're doing with Qigong, right? Qigong is harnessing energy, positive energy, breathing in, right? Calming your energy so that when you go out into the world, you are actually emanating this peace and this light, right? So this is really one way of making a change, an impact without moving a finger, acting without doing, right? Is become what you want other people to become, right? Excellent advice. Okay, here's another one. Things arise and she lets them come. That's another way to act without doing. What does it mean that things arise and we let them come? This should sound a bit familiar to connections here with Ecclesiastes. Excellent, excellent. I'll come back. You want to add them?
Yeah, it's like the act of receiving or embracing just what comes your way.
Okay, absolutely, right? Receive what comes your way. Stop blocking everything, right? There's two big sins we do, and we'll see the other one in a second. Blocking and grasping. You can ruin your life with, I'll just give you advice, life advice forever. All you need is this. Don't block, don't grasp. If you can do that, you'll be fine. Very often, right? We either block or we grasp. Let me give you an example. Career. You're going to have opportunities come your way, which you're going to think are not good enough for you, right? Because you know what is good enough for you, right? You know good and evil, right? Which already Tao Te Ching is laughing at you, right? Who are you to decide what is good and evil? Things will come to you, which you will think are below you, and you will block. And you will not realize that by taking that opportunity could have been a stepping stone, right? Could have been a door, could have been an opportunity leading to another opportunity. And very often or person comes in your life, right? You're on the dating scene. Person comes in your life, like, no, not this one, right? You decide right away, 5 minutes. Some people can do that, right? And again, missing, right? Possible opportunity. We block, we do not, why we block? Because we think we are more intelligent than the Tao, right? The Tao who is arranging, the idea in Chinese philosophy is that there is an intelligence arranging your life, right? This is really the idea behind this book, that there is an intelligence bringing things to you and taking things away, arranging your life, right? And so if you do not receive what comes your way and you despise it or you reject it, you are in a way putting yourself as more intelligent than life itself, right? And you're missing out again on what life was bringing to you, the opportunities life was putting on you. So first law of life, do not block, right? Try it, right? Opportunity opens, it doesn't hurt, go for it. You don't like it, you can always leave, right? But don't block immediately, right? Friend invites you to a party, you're an introvert, you want to stay home, watch Netflix, right? Don't block. Who knows? Love of your life might be at the party, right? Or, your next job might be waiting there. So again, right, too often we are so locked up in our own little version of our lives, right, that we miss everything we could become, right? Very good. Now, here's the second one. Things disappear and she lets them go. Ooh, what does this mean? This is also close to Ecclesiastes, like you were saying, right? Also very, very close. Things disappear and we let them go. What is he saying? What is the Tao Te Ching saying here?
Maybe not attached to things. Like if something goes, you just feel like that. You lose your job or if something happens, you're not like crying and like depressed. Just let it go.
Absolutely, right? Learning to release is just as important as learning to receive, right? This famous story of the person, the kid, let me get it right. There's an innkeeper, I'll get it in a bit. Innkeeper had a horse, and so he got a new horse. He found a horse in a pasture, brings it to the village, and the village is like, oh, so good you have a horse. And he's like, well, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, right? Then his son gets on the horse, breaks his leg, right? Now the son is sick. Villagers come and say, oh man, so bad your son is sick. Broken leg. And the innkeeper is like, oh, it might be good, it might be bad, I don't know. War breaks out. Everyone is enlisted except the son because of his broken leg, right? You see where this is going, right? So often in life, right, something goes and we're like, ah, thinking it's the end of the world, when actually maybe this is actually good thing that thing is going, right? Let it pass you by, allowing things to pass us by, allowing people to pass us by, career opportunities to pass us by. Why? Because there is something probably better waiting, right? Has to be clear. So this is the notion of not grasping, right? Not blocking, not grasping. If you just keep that in mind for everything that you do, right? And when we live like this, we don't need to compete and step on other people to get to what we want. We know that it will come in its own time. We don't have to push and shove to get what we want, right? We know I can just sit here. If it comes, I take it. If it goes, I let it go. I'm not going to go against the intelligence of nature, right? I'm going to do without doing, right? That's another version. So yes, very good, very close. It's so interesting how the philosophy we studied in the book of Ecclesiastes, right? I told you it was very Eastern. So similar to this, right? Okay, she has, but she doesn't possess. What does it mean to have? So there's a paradox, right? How can you have without possessing? What does this mean, to have without possessing? What does it mean to have a job, to have a person, to have a child without possessing? Let's start with the child, since you all be maybe parents. Or first, go ahead.
I was going to say that you have things, but they're not yours forever. You can use them at any moment.
Okay, you don't depend on them for your life, right? You have your life in you. You don't need those things. You don't have to feed on those things to survive. If they go, you're still your own person, right? So let's go down the list. What does it mean to have a child but not to possess them? How do we sometimes have a child but also want to possess them? What does it mean?
Maybe that child becomes an extension of ourselves rather than letting them grow as themselves.
Okay, very good, right? We want to control, grasp, possess. You're mine. You have to do this and this and this because you carry my name, right? You carry my name, you carry my dreams, you carry my frustrations. Now you need to, right? What does it mean to possess a beloved? To have a beloved and also to possess them. What does it mean? How do we sometimes possess our beloveds rather than just have them? You and then you, Azerad, and then okay, go ahead, you first.
By controlling them or telling them how they should act.
Okay, very good, right? We have them, and it's not enough for us to have them. We have to control them too, right? And we can't stand it when they talk to this person, or when they wear this clothes, or when they want to study this, or when they want to take this trip by themselves. It's like, what? That's unacceptable, right? And when they want to do things that doesn't fit their gender, right? And so forth, right? Again, excellent relationship advice, right? We have, but we also do not possess, right? Azirad.
I was going to say the same thing.
Same thing.
If they're not doing, like, we want them to do certain things that's not their nature to do.
Okay, excellent.
So you make them go against their own nature.
Exactly. Well, you're a woman, you should be here, or you're a man, you should do that. You should have this career, right? And in this way, we impose roles on each other, stereotypes, and again, right? Ujima.
So that's basically the same as preconceived notions of someone.
As what?
Is that the same as preconceived?
Yeah. Continue. Tell us.
Because I was confused on if having these notions of someone would be the same as being possessive in a way. Because while you may not like how they act, I'm not sure if preconceived notion specifically forces one in a particular area.
Absolutely. Right. Anytime you come with your vision of the good, right, and impose it on reality, whether it's a person or a situation, you're breaking away from the Tao, right? So if you come with your vision of what that person should be, right, towards you or in their own self, right, you are now again disturbing the order of nature. You're disturbing the flow, right? Anything that disturbs the flow for Chinese philosophy, we want to be in the flow, right? You don't want to block the flow. You don't want to grasp the flow. You want to really be in the flow, whatever is happening. If you master this art, right, of refraining from grasping or blocking, you will really enter into a flux that will lead you to your best life. That's the idea here, right? If you want your best life, lose control, right? lose control and surrender to the natural rhythm of life, to the flux of life. Where life takes you, embrace it. Where it doesn't take you, accept it, right? If you learn to go with the flow in this way, and it's hard because we have our small concept of what we think is the good life, and it's concept often informed by society, informed by our communities of faith and so forth, and we want it to be like this, and we miss the flow, and so we're in the flow, but we're like this, always looking to jump out of the flow, right? And so we can never relax into life, and we can never really go where our best life was waiting for us, right? We miss our best life when we're struggling against the flow, right? So this is, by the way, this is hard because it takes a huge trust, right? It's a leap of faith. You have to learn to trust life, right? I mean, I don't know if for you it's as hard as for me, but I mean, how can we begin to trust life? I guess that would be my real question. Like, I get what he's saying. I see what he's saying, go with the flow, try to trust where life is going, but can anyone give me some advice as to why should I trust life, right? Because, I mean, life can be pretty crazy, right? Why should I trust life to lead me to my, how do I know there is an intelligence leading me in the right place? How do I know I shouldn't be in control? What would convince me to surrender? Tell me. I'm waiting. Convince me. Yes.
Well, at least in my perspective, the idea of like trusting life, it does seem like foolish at first, but if you trust life and like have like some sort of faith, you tend to, lack of a better term, more like mellow out.
More than what?
For lack of a better term, you more like mellow out.
Mm-hmm.
Things that would normally greatly aggravate you or have you in a bad mood the entire day, you tend to have a larger perspective on it, and that itself could make a huge difference in your life.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so if I mellow out in a way, I start to see maybe the good in every situation, and then I don't have to fight it. Is that what you're saying? Right? So I'm relaxed and I'm letting life bring in whatever it brings, because I know that whatever it brings is going to be interesting at least, right? It's going to be, even if it's painful, going to help me grow. If it's nice, it's going to be obviously good, right? Pleasant. So in a way, I think what you're saying is that it's a way to live life wholly, right? All of life. And so even if it's not going where I want it to go, it's certainly taking me into the depths of life, right? In a way that my little agenda would never let me. Is that it? Okay, I like that. Mellow out. It's less painful. Anybody else want to convince me to surrender to the intelligence of life? Azerat.
The only way it would work for me is if I see it happening to other people. Because there's no way I would just go and put my whole faith just not in something that has no fruit. So for me, I would have to see it happen to other people.
Okay, good. Any examples? Anybody have experienced this in your life where you surrendered and life kind of led you to the right place, meaning that now you realize you can trust life? Those of you who trust life in the classroom, right? Did anything trigger that? Because, I mean, we're not born like that. I mean, as children we are, we're just all over we just flow in, right? But does anyone remember the moment when they shifted and they understood they could trust life? Anybody remember a time? Yes, tell us.
So I was born in Brazil, and then I want to come and move to the United States to study here. And then my family live in Brazil and then I was should I go and should I not? And then to come here by myself, all my family says don't go, we don't know nobody there. And then if something very bad happened, we don't know if we can support you financially or anything. And then I was okay, I work, I save the money, and then I just came, and then it's working out. So far, I didn't have any a certainty that things would work out, that I would make my get a job and get to pay school and figure it out. I didn't speak English when I came, and then now you understand me, right? So it's kind of it all works out somehow.
Okay, so the idea of it all works out somehow, right? Some of us maybe have experienced this. It all works out somehow, or things kind of work out in the end in the biggest, so it seems like there is something arranging things, right? Okay, nice. Anybody else want to help Azera than me surrender to life? Anybody else? Yes.
I think maybe in our formative years, it's human nature to be very selfish. As a child, you're kind of helpless, so you need to be dependent on the people. But I think, as a kid when I grew up, I didn't grow up in the greatest household. My parents lost their job in 2008. And my mom, she was traumatized as a kid. And I didn't understand that, like these relations, like the way she treated me is the way that she was treated as a kid. So the more I tried to understand her, as opposed to like lash out at her or tell her like what she's doing, because she knows what she's doing is wrong. But the more I tried to understand the situation rather than to react to it in a negative way, the more I could understand like where she's coming from, and the more I can understand that in a positive way that it made me a stronger person, kind of. So I think that's like a major turn. That was a major turning point in my life. That was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay,
I really
nice.
started to understand it.
Right, instead of fighting, right, the situation of your mom, you started to just, embrace it and okay, let me see what I can learn, what is, let me just stop and receive this. And so that very good. You stop resisting your mom, your mom in your life, and you start to say, okay, let me just embrace her, stay with the situation and see what is happening, right? Why is she like this? So this, in a way, as soon as you stop going against the flow, right, you went with the flow and you got a deeper insight, right? Anytime we allow ourselves to dwell in a situation that is normally that we would flee, this is very good, right? This is when you can really explore the situation and receive the wisdom the situation has for you, right? Knowing your mom now, you probably have a deeper insight into human nature. You have a deeper insight into women, probably also, right? So makes you wiser to really sit with your mom in this way, right? Very nice. So, but if you had just resisted and gone your own way, you would have still remained kind of slightly clueless as to what human nature really is, right? And women and so forth. So it made you wiser, right? To accept what life had brought you. So I like that. Very nice, very nice. Anybody else want to try? I have a big experience that shifted my view. So I'll tell you since we have a little time. So I wasn't going to do philosophy in the beginning of my life. I wanted to do music, actually. So I was obsessed with music. I was a violinist. And so I was in music school. Some people had told me you should do philosophy. And I was like, nah, I want to do music. Philosophy's too easy, whatever. So I was doing music. I was happy. I was in a really great school. And then all of a sudden I developed a problem in my left hand, which is the main hand, right? And I couldn't play a single note. Like I was completely messed up. Like it was a mixture of mental and psychological and physical tension and so forth. And I was almost done. I had done all the classwork. I had just recital left and I couldn't play. I was like, fuck my life, right? That's like basically the situation. And so I was like, okay, damn, So I started fighting and trying to make it work, right? So I would practice. No, it wouldn't work. And I had to leave that school, but I still kept at it. I'm like, I'm going to go to another school. So I switched colleges, and then there was an entrance exam. And I don't know if anyone studied music, but there's a 2-year music theory program, which is hell. It's 2 years of classes where you learn harmony and rhythm. It's very hard. It's the basis of the music school. It's like in philosophy, like, I don't know, 2 years of logic. Who wants, So I had to take the entrance exam to get in that other school, and I was still like in my dream to make this happen. I took the exam, and this guy, he flunked every single one of us. There were 10 of us transferring, which meant I had to take 2 years of music theory. At that point, I was like, you know what? I give up, right? I was like, let me find the quickest way to finish my BA. And I was like, philosophy. So I was like, because I knew it would be easy, I could finish in 1 year. And so I switched, like life pushed me, right? And then I never left. Like it was so amazing. And today, no regrets, right? I'm so much happier teaching philosophy than performing, right? Music, I really, in a way, life kicked me to my true destiny. I was resisting, I was really fighting to stay a musician, but life kept on closing all the doors, right? All the doors were becoming closed. I was desperate. And when I finally surrendered, fine, what can I do? Let me find the easiest way, right? And then I entered back into the flow. So for me, that taught me something so powerful, that doors will close, and actually that's life pushing you in a different direction, which is actually better fitted for you, right? And so that's why I tell people, never worry when you don't get that job, when you don't get that person, when you don't get that opportunity, when you don't get that career, right? If life is closing, is because it's pushing. So for me, after that was the turning point, right? That was the moment where I realized, whoa, there is some invisible hand here guiding my journey, which is smarter than me, because clearly I wanted, in my small intelligence, I saw myself as a musician, but it became very clear as I studied philosophy and began to teach it that I was actually made for that, right? So that's, for me, that was my experience, right? So this is why for me this rings true. That was the way that I was before. I was in charge, right? I was pushing, right? I was trying to make things happen. I was not following this at all. But once I realized there is this deeper intelligence at work, at least in my life, I could surrender to it, right? And I never worried again, right? I never worried again about getting a job or getting a relationship, because I knew whatever is closing is actually probably a good thing, right? Excellent. Here's the last one. Sorry, 2 minutes. Act but doesn't expect. I love this one. What does it mean to act but not expect? So you're putting in the work, but you don't expect what? What kind of expectations are we talking about here?
I think it's kind of like when you want something, but then you do everything in your power to get it, but you don't get your reward. That can put you in like an idea, like a sea of despair.
Yes.
But if you don't expect the reward, then you not be like less hurt, but you'll know that there's just more to life.
Okay, some of you really getting this, right? Some of you already wise, right? Absolutely. You do what it takes, but the result is not in your hands, and you're able to release the result, right? But you put in, so acting without acting doesn't mean do nothing, right? There's a lot you're doing. I mean, look, the first one, you're modeling. The second one, you're receiving. The third one, you're not grasping. The fourth one, right? You're able to go with the flow. These are all actions, but they're actions that are aligned. And the last one here is very profound and very helpful. Whenever you want something really bad, like a job or a person, I guess these are the two main things. We're always going to want really bad, right? Whenever you want something really bad, you do your part, but you leave the rest to the intelligence of nature. And this is very hard to do, but it's also very relaxing to know that I did my best. And now I can just release the result and see what life does with my work, right? It's being co-creator with life, right? I'm doing my part, but life also has to do its part. I'm sowing, but life has to rain, right? I am harvesting, but life, right? So in a way, the invitation here is to work in partnership with nature. Don't work alone. Nothing rests just on you alone. You do your part, but nature then has to kick in and finish the work, so to say, right? And if you realize, right, that you're in partnership with the intelligence of life itself, with the Tao itself, you are in a partnership with that. You know you can always do your best and then release it to the intelligence of life to finish that work, to bring the result that is really needed. So you can go to that job interview and relax, right? You can be like, okay, I did my part, I prepared, but now it's up to the intelligence of life to make this work or not. And it's very strange, right? Sometimes life will put your application at the top of the pile, or some of your interviewees will know your mentor, and there are many like crazy things that happen that open doors to you, right? So for me, this text really is onto something, right? There's really, if you start to follow these guidelines and live in this attuned way, not only will you be more peaceful, but actually you will reach your best life. Let me say that again, because these are two things that you will get, I think, from following this path. Not only will you be more peaceful, or like you were saying, how did you put it, to live mellow or to be mellow?
It was just, if you're more mellow, you are less hurt.
Exactly, right? To live in your mellow, to be more relaxed. And at the same time, you can allow life or the intelligence of nature to lead you to your best life, which you would probably miss if you were just doing your own thing. Thank goodness life sometimes barges in and violently blocks us, pushes us, right? We're not left with our little vision. Life will come and break this, right? But we should understand that this is probably a good thing when it happens. Okay, any questions before we conclude? Stop the recording.